God's curse on them for generations. May the devil shit on their graves. Is that what a daughter should be? Would a daughter be such a whore? This video contains themes of domestic abuse, child abuse, violence, suicide, femicide, and religion. Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewers' discretion is advised. Honor killing is most often the murder of women, usually committed by their male family members for bringing dishonor to the family. Punishable offenses include but are not limited to being a victim of rape, saying no to forced marriages, engaging in adultery or seeking a separation, getting a divorce, having sexual relationships, engaging in interreligious relations, wearing clothing or jewelry associated with promiscuity, etc. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Omodele Salu, and if you're here, that means you're invested in true crime content as much as I am. So welcome, take a seat. I am going to be posting a lot of content like this, so if this is something that you would like, please like, subscribe, and turn that notification bell on so you can get notified when I post a new video. Now that all that is out of the way, let's get right into today's case. On the 30th of June 2009, a worker at the Kingston Mills Locks discovered a black Nissan Sentra with a broken left tail light submerged in water. Divers discovered 4 bodies inside. They were members of the Shafia family. The Shafia family were originally from Afghanistan. The father of the family, Muhammad Shafia, was a very strict religious man. In 1979, Muhammad Shafia married Rona Mohammed, and it was actually Shafia's mother that saw Rona, thought she was beautiful, and then invited her over to her place so that her son Shafia could take like a good look at her and decide if he wanted to marry her, I guess. After Rona and her family left, Shafia did give his consent to the union, and back at Rona's home, Rona's brothers asked her if she wanted to marry Shafia, and she just said, "Give me away in marriage if he is a good man, but don't if he is not." And just a side note here, a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about in this case are from Rona's point of view, because she had like a diary that she documented almost everything. So in the beginning of their marriage, Shafia and Rona were happy. They were doing what newlyweds do. What do newlyweds do? But sadly, this did not last long, because soon Shafia found out that Rona could not have a baby, and this did not go down well with him because he wanted like a large family. They tried and tried to have a baby for years. They even went out of the country as far as India to get fertility treatments, but nothing worked. Rona said, "My husband started picking on me. He would not allow me to go visit my mother, and at home he would find fault with my cooking and serving meals, and he would find excuses to harass me. Finally, after nearly a decade without a baby, I told him, 'Go and take another wife. What can I do?'" And taking a second wife is not against the Afghan custom or Shafia's religion, so he did take a second wife. Suba Mohammed Yahya was 17 years old when Shafia married her. She was a relative of one of Shafia's friends, and at this time he was double her age and old enough to be her father. Shafia said it was Rona, his first wife, that handpicked his second wife Tuba, and she even planned the reception. She was happy about it all, that she told him that children are important and I want you to find another woman to marry. Hopefully she can like give you what you need, children. According to Shafia, that was her choice, her agreement, I guess. Now, of course, we're going to have a pause moment here. It's been so long since I did a pause moment where I just come a rant and pour out my mind and just like basically, I don't know, annoy people. So let's go. We have to be careful what we pass off as choice, agreement, all of that. When we're talking about women, we need to be careful what we pass off as women's choices and agreements, especially in societies like this. Choice is a very interesting thing in feminism, because a lot of us, let me not say a lot of us, a lot of choice feminists believe that when something is a woman's choice, even if whatever she's choosing is subjugation, that it is inherently feminist. So it is not to be questioned. And what is feminism all about if it's not a woman being able to choose for herself, right? But what other choice did Rona have when she knows that if she's seeking a separation, she can be killed? If she wants to divorce, she can be killed. If she's saying, oh no, don't do this, she's going against her husband's wishes or her traditions, she can be killed, alienated from society. Do you get? In a society like that, what other options does she have to choose from? So why do we say things like, oh, it's a choice, so it's fine, no matter how horrible the thing is that a woman is choosing? And we fail to forget that a lot of these things stem from indoctrination as a child. Your choice has already been made for you before you were even born, before you could even say shh, not even shh. Rona had a very different recollection of the whole thing. She said, I was visited with a new catastrophe. So you see what I'm saying about choices and agreements of women in patriarchal societies. You see it, right? Shafia now had 2 wives, and the 3 of them lived together in one household. They were not a family of 3 for very long though, because within weeks of the wedding, Tuba was pregnant with Zainab, the baby her new husband wanted so badly. Tuba knew the power she had over Shafia's emotions, because yes, she gave him the baby that he had always wanted. So now she's pulling rank as the favored wife, you know, telling Rona, get out of the way, this is my house, I now rule here. She probably did not say that, or probably did in different words. So yeah, she is now plotting and conniving, trying to make sure that Shafia and Rona are even more distant than they already were. Not long after Zainab was born, Tuba got pregnant again. This time it was a boy. Rona wrote in a diary, after their son Hamed was born, happiness left me. In October of 1991, Tuba had yet another baby. This time it was a girl, and they named her Saha. And Tuba gave Saha to Rona to raise her as her own. I'm laughing because how do you give someone your baby? It's like, here, a Christmas gift because you're barren, raise her as your own, even though I'm in the same house and my rule as a mother or whatever still stands. But here, your Christmas gift, I'm popping it out to give people. I don't know, I'm judging so hard, and I probably have no idea how it happens in societies and families and everything like this, so I need to shut up. Tuba, knowing how much power she had in this household, came up with a plan. The plan was that Shafia would stay 3 nights in a week with her, and then 1 night with Rona. And Rona was not even mad at this. She was so happy with Saha. She was so glad that she got to like take care of Saha, and that was enough for her, so she agreed to the whole plan. But soon Shafia just stopped staying with Rona altogether. Saha was still a baby when the Afghanistan civil war was going on. The Shafias had to flee the country by car, and they arrived at the Pakistani border as a family of 6. Shafia, Rona, Tuba, Zainab, Hamed, and Saha. Not long after the family arrived in Pakistan, Tuba gave birth to another baby girl, and her identity is actually protected by a publication ban, so we're just going to be referring to her as Girl A. Soon after Girl A was born, Tuba was pregnant yet again. This time it was a boy, and his identity is also protected by a publication ban, so we are just going to be referring to him in this case as Boy A. So I know it can get confusing, right? So we have Zainab, Hamed, Saha, Girl A, and Boy A. So 5 children. After their 6th child and youngest daughter, Gitsi, was born, the family started packing again. This time they were moving to the United Arab Emirates. In the UAE, Shafia launched a new company, M Shafi Trading, and business was better than ever. Barely a year after arriving in Dubai, Panasonic awarded him 50,000 US dollars for being the top seller in the region. He would later expand his operation to include used cars imported from the United States. It was in Dubai that the Shafia kids got to experience the Western culture for the first time. And the UAE is an Islamic country, but they are pretty, I don't want to say westernized, liberal, so they are accommodating of different realities, experiences, cultures, and all of that. So the Shafia kids went to an American private school. They wore uniform, learned to speak English. They also met kids from around the world, so they got to like see different cultures that were very, very different from what they knew. The move to Dubai was not easy for Rona though. She was so lonely. She wrote about Tuba learning to drive, buying as much gold jewelry as she wanted, and putting all these schemes in place to position herself as the preferred wife, as the better wife. Not aggressively through shouting and quarreling, but gently and smoothly without putting herself at risk of any censor. Miserable me who wouldn't question Shafi in regard to anything swallowed everything without a word because I had no option. This is what I say when I talk about women and their choices in societies like this. Women like Rona can choose to marry men like Shafia, and women like Rona can choose to let it in quotes, because can you really let a man like this do something? You're going to do it anyways, and you're just going to be in their bad books for saying no. Can you choose to let a man like Shafia disrespect them and all of that, and they just take it because they have to choose this option, because what other option is there? While in Dubai, Tuba gave birth for the final time to a baby boy. Now this is baby number 7, and we are going to be referring to him as Boy B because his identity is also protected by a publication ban. So now quick, let me just list the children out one by one, in case you guys are having a hard time following my gibberish. So we have Zainab, Hamed, Saha, then we have Girl A, Boy A, then we have Gitsi and Boy B. The Shafia family lived in Dubai for more than a decade, but they spent most of that time trying to relocate to another country that could offer them citizenship, not just residency. They did try to move to New Zealand, but Rona did not pass a required medical test. I don't know which one exactly. They moved to Australia for a bit, but they were sent back to Dubai, and Tuba said it was because she and the kids were not feeling Australia like that. But Rona said that it was because her husband Shafia went against his visa rules, which clearly stated that he was not to purchase any property while he was in Australia. In her words, the silly fool went against, ignored the rules of his visa and purchased property. Shafia was so frustrated and angry because his relocation plans were not going as he had planned, and Rona got the worst of it. Whatever I did, if I sat down, if I got up, if I ate anything, there was blame and censor attached to it. In 2007, Shafia finally found his way out of Dubai and into Canada. Quebec's immigrant investor program provided visas to affluent foreigners in exchange for money and for them to invest their wealth into the economy. Back then, the required amount was $400,000. Right now, it probably should be up to $1 million. And one thing that that I just came to know about was that certain what am I doing that I'm going to get dragged? Certain first world countries allowed people to buy citizenship into in their countries, or into their countries, I guess, with money and investments and all of that. And I did not know about this until I did that scam culture case, scam culture in Nigeria, the rise and fall of Ovaiza and Chinmark, and I consume a lot of that kind of content, and I saw that, okay, is it that these countries are only worried about the quality of people coming into their country when it is a certain type of immigrant. And when the immigrant is rich, they don't just care about, I don't know. Moving on. Shafia had no problem covering this cost. $400,000 was nothing to him. His only problem though was trying to hide the truth about his two wives because he did not want this to affect his application. So when he was filling out his paperwork, he only listed one wife, Tuba. In June of 2007, while the rest of the family boarded a plane to Canada, Rona was sent to live with her relatives in Europe while Shafia figured out a plan to bring her to Canada without the Canadian immigration suspecting a thing. This was Rona's first time away from the rest of the family, and to her own surprise, she missed them terribly and she could not wait to be with them again. One of the first things Shafia did when he landed in Montreal was purchase a new car, a silver Lexus SUV. He also invested $2 million in purchasing a strip mall on the outskirts of Montreal. And also, he invested $900,000 to build a new spacious house for his family. On paper, Mohammed Shafia was the ideal immigrant investor. He was buying all these properties, was eager to pour his money into Quebec's economy, the strip mall, the house, and he also launched an import-export firm that dealt in clothing, household items, and construction materials. So he was the immigrant of all immigrants. While they were waiting for their home, their mansion to be completed, the Shafias spent 2 years in a rental home in a 4-bedroom apartment, and they did not bother to unpack all the furniture that they brought from Dubai. The children were sleeping on the floor, so they just spread out like a mat and they were just sleeping on the floor. A lot of witnesses that came forward said that their house did not look like that of a rich businessman. Although Shafia had moved his daughters to one of the freest of countries, and I know that he knew for a fact that they are going to be overwhelmed by the culture shock because, yes, they lived in the city of Dubai, but when you compare that to living in places like the US, the UK, Canada, I'm sure there's a big difference. And I don't know much about the culture in Dubai, the Dubai culture. I was trying to make these little comparisons, but I do not know much about it. So I'm going to put someone on who does, and because he stayed in Dubai, so he's just going to do that for me.
Okay, so the major difference between Dubai, the society, the culture, and what you get in the Western world is that a lot of things that can be done in the open in the Western world cannot be done in the open in Dubai. Even though Dubai is a tourist city and they try to be as free as possible so that they can get more tourists to visit, because if they are very conservative, let's say like Saudi Arabia, it's going to be difficult to get people to visit. So they try to be free and open so that a lot of people can come in, especially Europeans. So let's say drinking, for example, it's not allowed for you to drink in public. So at the time I was there, you can't drink in public, you're going to get arrested. But you can buy a drink, let's say at the airport, if you're coming into the city, and take the drink straight to your hotel room to drink. Nobody will harass you for that, but you're not allowed to drink outside in the city and get drunk and all of that. No, that is not allowed. So you can drink, but again, behind closed doors. So let's say public display of affection, for example, you can see that where a lot of tourists are. Let's say at the beach, but in regular neighborhoods, it's rare to see people openly displaying affection, because even though the country is free, people are coming in, there's still this mindset, especially among people who reside there, like the employees, the people who reside, that this country is this city is an Islamic city governed by Islamic laws. So we have to be careful so we don't get into trouble. So yeah, you can't do it openly. And let's talk about sex workers. For example, they are there in Dubai. You can get sex workers, but again, behind closed doors. If you get caught, you're going to be in trouble. So they do it behind closed doors. So all of these things you can get, all of this kind of lifestyle, you can get it right there in Dubai, but it's on a low key, you understand? So you can't do it openly, just like the way you can do it in the Western world. So that is the major difference between these two societies. Even though the Dubai city, they are opening up a bit. I read that they recently they now allow alcohol. You can now drink alcohol openly. And now, like before, if you're not a couple, like if you're not a married couple, you can't stay together in the same hotel room. Yes, I forgot to say that. But recently they removed that law. So if you're coming in, if you're not a married couple, you can actually stay together now in the same room, in the same hotel room, which was not allowed before. So you see, things are gradually changing, and I hope it changes too, as time goes on. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that was a lot. So you can see how much of a culture shock this can be for anyone, especially children. Most people, when they relocate to a new country, they try to assimilate. For children, it could be so that they don't get bullied. And I'm not saying this should be a standard. You should not bully people, period. But we don't live in a perfect world, and children may try to do all these things so that they are not the odd one out, right? But Shafia wanted his daughters to uphold his twisted idea of what honor is, I guess, and them as much as talking to a boy in public could bring dishonor to the family. 6 months after everyone else had arrived in Canada, in December of 2007, Rona finally came to join them. She arrived on a temporary visitor visa as her husband's supposed cousin and live-in nanny. Rona came to meet everything still the same. Shafia was still cold to her. Tuba was the same old Tuba. Your life is in my hands. I am the ruler of this house because I am the baby making machine. Oh my God, that was harsh. Anyway, but she even told Rona that, look, you are my servant. Rona moved into a bedroom with Giti and Sahar, just sleeping mat side by side. The brothers Hamed and Boy A shared another bedroom, as did Zainab and her younger sister, Girl A. The youngest, Boy B, slept with his mom and dad in the master bedroom. Shafia traveled a lot on business trips, and he put Hamed in charge. Hamed was to enforce his father's roles and be his father's eyes, ears, and even fists. Although Zainab was older, she was the eldest of all of them, of the kids, but she was still afraid of her younger brother Hamed. And when one of her classmates, Amal Wahid, sent her a Valentine, she just told him, look, beware of my bro. If my bro is around, act like a complete stranger. We will talk if my bro is not around, because I don't want to give him the slightest idea that we are friends. Now, Amal Wahid is probably just happy to be with this girl that he liked, so he was fine with the plan. He stuck to the plan. And he's from Pakistan, so I'm guessing that he understood, he understood that, okay, this is what, for me to be with Zainab, this is what I have to do. Unfortunately, their relationship did not last long because barely a month after, while both her parents were visiting Dubai, Zainab invited a new boyfriend to the house, unaware that her brother Hamed was on his way there too. Zainab and Amma had Hamed coming, and Amma Amma went to hide in the garage. Hamed, sensing something was wrong, decided to search the house and he found Amma hiding in the garage. He shook Amma's hand and told him to leave, and after that Zainab never returned to school, and for the next 10 months she was essentially banished to her room. She did not go to school and could not leave the house without a relative by her side. Zainab's younger sister Sahar, you remember Sahar, right? The child that Tuba gave to Rona to train as her own. Sahar was 16 at the time. She was still going through her own mess, trying to adjust to life in Canada, the culture shock, all of it. Then Tuba, probably out of nowhere, came to accuse her of kissing a boy. She even went as far as going to Sahar's school and cornered one of her teachers and said that she did not accept her daughter kissing a boy because it did not fall within the parameters of her values. Sahar was so depressed and suicidal that she took one of those white gel silica packets that used to be in shoe boxes, mixed it in water and drank it. Rona and Giti saw this. They ran to her side trying to help her, and they were trying to get Tuba was in the kitchen, so they were trying to get Tuba's attention to her daughter trying to take her life, and Tuba just said she can go to hell, let her kill herself. On the 7th of May 2008, Batshaw, Quebec's Anglophone Child Welfare Agency, received a call. It was Sahar. She was crying and telling them about all the abuse going on in the house, about Hamed flinging a pair of scissors at her, about the side attempts, about the pressure she had to wear the hijab, about her parents making her younger sister get a kind of like a spy just to check on her or check what she's doing while they're in school and then report everything back to them. Sahar also said her mother had barely talked to her in months and had told the other kids to ignore her too. Evelyn Benayoun, a Batshaw intake worker, so like a social worker, right, asked her, okay, what do you want? What do you want out of all of this? And she said, I just want my mother to speak to me. And she also said that the day she tried to take her life, she wanted to end it all, but she did not know how to go about it. The call was classified as a Code 1, and immediately Evelyn Benayoun dispatched a colleague. But when Jinro arrived at Antoine de Saint-Exupéry High School, she encountered a very different Sahar. Sahar was still crying, but now she was denying everything. She kept saying, I don't want you to meet my parents, I want to go home. According to reports, the social workers involved in this case did follow protocols. They got the parents involved and of course they denied everything, and now that the child too was denying everything, according to reports, there was really nothing that they could do. But I'm thinking, you want to involve her parents and you're not going to immediately remove her from that situation. She's definitely going to, or she knows that she's going to go home back to her abusers. So I don't know. There's a lot. I don't want to talk about a sector I know little to nothing about, and I don't want to bash a sector that I know little to nothing about too. So yeah, one of the social workers involved in this case, General, actually went for a follow-up visit. She went to the school, she saw Sahar, she saw that Sahar was now calm, she was wearing her hijab, she was cautious, she was still minimizing the situation, and she said that you have to make an assessment if the child is in danger, and she saw that Sahar was not in danger at the time. She just wanted to be home, so she closed the case. Back home, nothing changed for Rona. She was still being maltreated by her husband and her fellow wife, and she would just spend her days wandering through the parks trying to limit the amount of time that she spent in the house, and she would also use payphones to call her relatives to confide in them. Rona's sister, Diba Masumi, said Rona would always go outside and cry, and she would say things like, I am fed up of my life, I want God to finish my life, I want to be in an accident. One of Rona's relatives was so concerned about Rona that she put her in touch with another distant family member, an Afghan women's rights advocate living in Virginia. Rona would call this relative the Afghan women's rights advocate Fahima Vojet up to 3 times in a week, and she would tell Fahima that her husband Shafia would beat and humiliate her, and Fahima was trying to get her to leave the house and learn something so that, I don't know, maybe so that time can go faster, I guess, to like get a hobby, get something doing. But Rona just told Fahima that Shafia is never going to allow that. Rona wanted a divorce. The thought of leaving the kids made the decision a little bit harder for her, but she knew she had to leave that situation. But Shafia did not want to let her go. He wanted her to keep on being there, for him to keep abusing and threatening, saying things like if she ever left, he was going to kill her. And you have to remember that Rona was in Canada on a visitor visa, and she did not have permanent residency like the rest of the family. Remember she came as Shafia's distant cousin, who later became the living nanny. So she was there on a visitor visa, and they kept on extending and extending, and Shafia was working with lawyers on like her permanent residency, so it was holding that over her head. And I mean she's not spiteful, because is Shafia not also in violation of like his visa rules? Or a few months after Zainab's 19th birthday, she was finally allowed to return to school. Not the same one she met Amado. She took morning classes by herself, and she took a French night course with Hamed and her mother. Zainab hardly ever got any time alone. She was always being watched by Hamed, her parents, relatives, even her young siblings. On one of the rare occasions where she was alone, she emailed her old boyfriend Amma. She said, I miss you bad. I still remember the way you told me you loved me the first time. She also said that she cried about the day her brother Hamed caught Amma at their house, and she told him, Baby, work hard, make something out of yourself. I will be so happy. By the beginning of 2009, about a year after they had initially been separated, Zainab and Amma started sneaking around to see each other once again, sometimes at McDonald's, sometimes at the library, and sometimes with Saha and her new boyfriend, Ricardo Sanchez. It was actually Zainab that introduced Ricardo to her sister Saha. Ricardo was a recent immigrant from Honduras, and he was in Zainab's French class, and Zainab thought that Ricardo and Saha would get along well, so she introduced them. And there was this language barrier because Ricardo was learning French, but he only spoke Spanish at the time, and Saha spoke English. So there was this language barrier, and for the longest time, or for a while at least, Ricardo thought Saha's name was Natasha, and he kept calling her Natasha, and they just rolled with it. The language barrier did not stop them from making a connection, developing a relationship, going on dates, and having fun. Ricardo was living with an aunt, Emma Medina, when he first came to Canada. Saha started to confide in Emma. She told Emma that her parents did not know about her relationship with Ricardo, and the day her parents knew, she would be a dead woman. Gitty knew about Ricardo. She knew everything about Saha. They were really close as sisters, and Gitty wanted to be like Saha. By this time, she was around 13 years old, and she was like her own brand of rebel. She loved wearing makeup. She loved wearing fashionable clothes, and she would always skip school, and even when she showed up to school, she would go hide out in the bathroom. And you have to understand that Gitty was one of the children that did not get to experience the life the Afghanistan culture and the Pakistan culture, because it was immediately after she was born that the family moved from Pakistan to Dubai. So I guess her reality was more of the Western culture in Dubai, I guess. This made Shafia very angry. He was always lashing out at her. During a parent-teacher interview, he actually told one of her teachers that he wanted her bad behavior to be logged in a daily agenda book. The very next day after, he told her teacher that Giti did not show up to school. In the early days of April 2009, Giti and her siblings, boy A and girl A, went to the mall, and I guess that they got distracted. Time went by really fast, and when they got home, it was really late. Shafia and Hamed just started lashing out at them. They were slapping them, screaming at them, and just being really mean to these children. The abuse going on in the house had become so unbearable for Zainab. She was so sad and frustrated that she could not do anything about it, so she decided it was time to leave. Hamed called 911 frantic. He told the dispatcher that his older sister had run away and that she left a note saying she just wanted to live her life. At this point, Zainab is almost 20 and she is considered an adult in most places. And Hamed is saying she ran away and that she left a note saying she wanted to live her life. So I'm guessing the dispatcher did not really see it as an emergency, because a few minutes after Hamed had ended the first 911 call, he called again to ask them why they hadn't sent anybody yet. Zainab ran away on Friday, the 17th of April 2009 and took refuge at a women's shelter. This made Shafia so angry because he thought about her out in the world, unsupervised, probably doing some dishonorable things, and even if she wasn't, he thought that people would think that she was, and that was just as bad. The news of Zainab leaving the house somehow got back to her siblings in school. So Saha, Giti, Girl A and Boy A, and they were so scared of going back home because they were terrified of the mood that their father would be in. So they went to a stranger's home and begged him to help them call the police. I think they were hoping that if their father saw them with a police officer, his reaction would be different. Anne-Marie Chuquette was one of the Montreal constables who was dispatched to the scene. She and her partner found the kids just standing on a street corner, still too afraid to go home, so they walked them the rest of the way home. Giti told the officers about the mall incident, how her dad pulled her hair, and how Hamed had just kept on punching her. She also said that her father often threatened that he was going to kill them. Chuquette noticed that Girl A had an injury near her right eye and she asked about it. What Girl A said has never been disclosed because Girl A quickly recanted her entire statement. Boy A told the officers that his brother Hamed had kicked him and that his father had threatened to tear him apart. Sahar told the officers about more of the abuse going on in the house, about how Hamed was always looking for an excuse to hit them, about how her father was always beating Zainab because of Amal Wahid, Zainab's boyfriend. And Giti and Sahar told the officers that there was so much violence going on in the house and that they were really afraid of their father. The kids were still outside talking to the police officers when Shafia pulled into the driveway. He gave them a look and immediately they just stopped talking. Girl A started to cry and she took back everything she had originally said. A social worker from Quebec's Child Welfare Agency was also dispatched to the house that night. It was Batshaw, the Anglophone service that had responded to Sahar's original call. The social worker did speak to Shafia, Tuba and Hamed, and for some reason he decided it was okay to leave the kids in the house and continue the investigation after the weekend. Chuquette, on the other hand, thought that there was enough evidence to lay criminal charges, but she decided it was best to follow protocol and leave that decision to the social workers. On the 20th of April 2009, the Monday after Zainab left the house, the Shafia kids' case file landed on the desks of Laurie and Lefebvre, a Montreal detective who worked the child abuse department. Lefebvre, accompanied by the social worker, visited the school that day to re-interview the kids, all except for boy A, as he was absent from school that day. Girl A kept on recanting her statement, but Gitty and Sahar did not. Gitty wanted immediate placement in foster care because she had no freedom, and Sahar provided more details about her older brother Hamed. She said that when their dad was away, Hamed was the boss, and he was basically given the go-ahead to abuse them. Sahar was not looking like her usual self. She was wearing makeup, jewelries with no hijab. She said that when she was leaving the house, she dressed the way they wanted her to, with the hijab and everything. And then when she got to school, she would change out of it and wear what she actually wanted to wear. And then when she was going back home, she would change back to the hijab and all of that. After hearing about all the abuse going on in the house, for some reason, no charges were laid. And also, the Shafia kids' case file was closed. While Zainab was away, Gitty just stopped going to school. Sahar did continue to go to school though, but she was always down, always crying. And when her teachers and schoolmates asked about Gitty, she would lie and say that Gitty was really sick and she was in a coma. That was why she could not come to school. Shafia and Tuba were summoned to the school yet again. This time it was to discuss their kids' bad grade and poor attendance. The assistant principal, Nathalie Laramie, said that Shafia was in a state and he kept on shouting in her office, "What can we do? What can we do?" He also kept on repeating the word policia. When Shafia and Tuba left the office, Boy A said that the police did visit their house, but that things were getting better. After Boy A left, Gitty and Sahar told a much different story. They said, if anything, things had gotten much worse. Sahar said, "My sister and myself are afraid in the house, and we know that when we are in school, we have to be really careful because our behavior is reported back." Eventually, Zainab contacted her mother and Tuba convinced her to come home. She said, "Look, if you really want to get married to this Amal Wahid guy, I can get behind that." As the day of the wedding approached though, Tuba tried to get Zainab to cancel this wedding. She even asked one of her brothers in Sweden, Fazil Javid, to help her talk to Zainab. And after talking to Zainab so many times on the phone, he just told Tuba that, look, she knows what she is doing. She needs freedom and she thinks this is the only way she can get it. So she needs to get married to leave the house. Because Zainab told Fazil on the phone that, look, I know it's not my time to get married, but I need to get married to get out of this house. I don't know how, but Tuba did manage to get what she wanted. The marriage was annulled a day after the wedding reception, and Zainab was so heartbroken. Hi, hello, editing me jumping in here real quick. So, the reason for this marriage getting annulled was because Amal Wahid's family did not show up to the wedding because they too did not approve of their son Amal marrying a foreigner. And the Shafia family thought this was embarrassing, and Tuba fainted. And Zainab just saw that, okay, this is not working. And so everyone decided that it was best for everyone if they got the marriage annulled. Rona was still going through it. She was still having to deal with all the abuse from both Shafia and Tuba. One day she overheard a very terrifying conversation between Shafia, Tuba and Hamed. And Shafia was saying, I will go to Afghanistan, I will prepare the documents, I will sell my properties, and then I will kill Zainab. And then Tuba asked, what about the other one? And Shafia just replied, I will kill the other one too. Rona was so sure that she was the other one they were talking about, and she called her sister in France, shaking. And her sister just said, look, don't be afraid. This is not Afghanistan. This is not Pakistan. Hell, this is not even Dubai. This is Canada. Nothing will happen. On the 30th of June 2009, Detective Constable Geoff Dempster was supposed to work the afternoon shift, but his cell phone rang a few hours early and he was asked to come in as soon as possible. It was about the car full of corpses at the Kingston Mills Locks. A few minutes after Dempster arrived at the police station, 3 people showed up to the front counter to file a missing persons report: Mohammed Shafia, Tuba Muhammad Yahya, and Hamed Shafia. Dempster spent most of his shift interviewing the 3, and for the most part, their story stayed accurate. They said that they all went on a road trip to Niagara Falls and they took 2 cars, a black Nissan Sentra and a silver Lexus SUV. They told Dempster that on their way back home to Montreal from Niagara Falls, they decided to check into a motel and continue their journey the next morning. They all got to the motel safe, and then Zainab grabbed the Nissan keys and said she was going to retrieve some clothes. They woke up the next morning to see that the Nissan and nearly half of the family were gone. Now, this was no rookie cop. Dempster was an OG in the game, and he knew that something really fishy was going on. He also knew that the more questions he asked them, the more strange and stupid their stories would become, and he was hoping on that. Because what are the chances that these 4 women, Rona Mohammed, Zainab Shafia, Sahar Shafia, and Giti Shafia, were all in the same car at the same time going for a joyride in the middle of the night after just coming back from a supposedly fun road trip? And remember that they said that it was only Zainab that they knew of that went out that night to go grab some clothes. Plus, why did an eyewitness tell investigators on the scene that he saw 2 cars at the water's edge that night? And lastly, why did the Shafiyas show up to the police station in a different car? Now remember, they said that they went on their vacation in like 2 cars, so the black Nissan Sentra and a silver Lexus SUV, but they showed up to the police station in a green Pontiac minivan. Hamed quickly came up with what he thought was a clever explanation, I'm guessing, for the whole Pontiac and SUV thing. He said around 2 a.m. he decided he needed to go get his laptop, 2 a.m. and he was home for a few minutes when his father called him to let him know that the girls were missing. And instead of him to drive the SUV back to the motel, he drove the green Pontiac minivan. And of course, Dempster is not buying this shit, so he keeps pressing. He's saying, okay, why? You have to tell me why you came back in the green minivan. And Hamed is like, well, it's better on gas. And Dempster is like, so you're telling me you came back in the green minivan and not the SUV you have been using to vacation like all this while because it's better on gas? And Hamed is like, well, that is one of the reasons. And Dempster is like, okay, what other reason is there? And it's like, nothing, nothing that is worth telling. The investigators on this case soon got to know about the case file that the Child Welfare Agency had on the Shafia kids. Now knowing about this case file, Dempster was a lot more suspicious, but he knew that he did not have enough evidence yet to officially charge them with the murders. He also knew he could not sit back and do nothing, so he planted bugs in their house, the green minivan, and also wiretapped their phones. The wiretaps told a terrifying story that chilled the investigators on this case to their very bones. Whatever Zainab threw in our way, she did. We lost our honor. Even if they were to wear clothes made from the Quran pages, the 4 of them, even if they were to scatter the pages in front of me, I wouldn't tell to their face. Even if they come back to life 100 times, if I have a cleaver in my hand, I will cut her in pieces, not once but 100 times. As they acted that cruel towards you and me, for the love of God, what had we done to them? What harm did we do to them? What excess had we committed that they undressed themselves in front of boys? If we remain alive one night or 1 year, we have no tension in our hearts, thinking that our daughter is in the arms of this or that boy, in the arms of this or that man. God's curse on them for generations. May the devil shit on their graves. Is that what a daughter should be? Would a daughter be such a whore? They say their father was meddling in their affairs. What did I use to meddle in? For God's sake, what affairs of Zainab did I meddle in? You tell me. She could have found a decent person. She could have found an Afghan. If she had said about someone from our relatives, "Give me away to this man," may God blast me to hell if I had said no. Even this Pakistani guy, she just ran away with him. Is this the way one takes a husband, to run away with him? Tuba, what she did does not fit the tenets of the holy book of neither Hindus nor Muslims. That is the crux of the matter. Except for their sinning and fornication, whenever did I call her filthy? I know Zainab was already done, but I wish the two others weren't. No, Tuba, they messed up. There was no other way. Look, Tuba, consider all the options, however you look at it. For the love of God, look at what they did. For Sahar, it was neither the time for her to marry, nor did she have a suitor. Tuba, they betrayed both themselves and us. Whenever I see those pictures of them, I am consoled. I say to myself, you did well. That is how hot I am, Tuba. They betrayed us. There can be no betrayal, no violation more than this. By God, you and I, we carried these children on our backs. We took them to Pakistan, Dubai, here and there, with the use of money. We subjected ourselves to hardships for them. They betrayed kindness. They betrayed Islam. They betrayed our religion and creed. They betrayed our tradition. They betrayed everything. I am happy and my conscience is clear. They haven't done good and God punished them. No need to talk about it at home. My conscience, my God, my religion, and my creed aren't shameful. Even if they hoist me up onto the gallows, nothing is more dear to me than my honor. Let's leave our destiny to God, and may God never make me, you, or your mother honorless. I don't accept this dishonor. Either you see them doing those bad things, or you hear that they did. We are not ashamed of our conscience, neither you nor your mother. Be like a man, your mother is also like a man. This is my word to you. Be I dead or alive, nothing in the world is above your honor. Even if, God forbid, they hoist us onto the gallows. Isn't that right, my son? Whatever the eventuality, we accept it wholeheartedly. They were immediately arrested and charged to court. The trial began on the 20th of October 2011, and one of the main arguments the prosecution brought forward in this case was honor killing. According to experts, honor killings are on the rise in the world. They take place most often in the Middle East, North Africa, and some parts of South Asia. As many as 5,000 women and girls are murdered every year in these types of killings. According to a 2000 United Nations Population Fund report, in 1999, at least 1,000 women were killed in Pakistan alone. Many of the women who are killed have been raped, and the perpetrator is often a member of their own extended family. In some places, the perpetrators of the honor killing are excused or given light sentences since the family's dishonor is taken into account. Throughout this case, you can see there's a very sharp focus on the kind of westernized lifestyle that these children wanted to live, the lifestyle that the defendants considered dishonorable. The three of them, Muhammad Shafia, Tuba Muhammad Jaya, and Hamed Shafia, denied their part in these murders. They said that they were innocent in all of this, but during the trial, you can see their whole story coming apart, I guess, and it's a whole lot. But I'm going to put some links down in the description box. I cannot get into it right now. I want us to stick to the prosecution's argument and also the facts, so what the medical examiner had to say. Now, the prosecution's whole argument was that they had planned all of this. They had gotten a new car, which is the Nissan Sentra, and they had killed the women before putting their bodies into the car and turning on the ignition, hoping the car would just drive right into the water. But the car got stuck and they had to use the SUV to push the car into the water, and that damaged the SUV, and that was why Hamed needed to go change the SUV to the green minivan. The forensic pathologist who conducted the 4 autopsies on the Shafia sisters and their father's first wife, Dr. Christopher Milroy, was unable to say exactly how or where the drowning had occurred, whether they were alive and drowned elsewhere and placed in the car. I cannot say with any certainty whether they were conscious or unconscious when they were drowned. Milroy also stated that he was not sure what caused the bruising found on the tops of the heads of 3 of the women, all but Sahar. He said that all the bruising was fresh and they could have occurred in the period just before their deaths. The general theory, though, is that they somehow got them into the Nissan, dead or alive, and then they used the Lexus to push them into the water, and then they made up stories to cover their tracks. What nailed them, though, was Rona's diary, the wiretaps, and the computer search. We have talked a lot about Rona's diary. I've used it a lot in this case. We have talked about the wiretaps. Now, let's talk about the computer search. On the 3rd of June 2009, there was a Google search for "Can a prisoner have control over his real estate?" The defense did try to explain this Google search away. They said that this happened when Hamed and Shafia were on a trip to Dubai. On the 20th of June 2009, another Google search for "where to commit a murder." Hamed's younger brother, Boy A, tried to take the blame for this one. He said that he had been suicidal and typed in murder when he actually meant to type in suicide. On the 27th of June 2009, a tower signal placed Hamed's cell phone in the Kingston area. This was the time that the family, they were supposed to be in Niagara Falls. So what was Hamed doing at that spot 3 days before the bodies of the girls were found? It is argued that he was casing the area. On the 29th of January 2012, after deliberating for 15 hours, a jury found each of the 3 defendants guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder. In Canada, first-degree murder verdicts carry an automatic sentence of life without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Tuba is now saying that she too was a victim in all of this, that she feels guilty for not doing more to protect the lives of her daughters, that she was really scared of Shafia, that was why she did not do anything to help them, and that she saw Shafia and Hamed actually push them into the water. So what do you guys think? Do you think Tuba is a victim in all of this? What do you guys think? What do you think? What do you think? I honestly don't know how to feel about Tuba now claiming that she too was a victim. And I know that in the beginning of this case, I was not the nicest person to Tuba. It's because when I read this case, my anger was directed at her because I felt she had the opportunity to be good, just a little bit, but she just chose to be really mean, and that really made me angry because yes, she was married off to Shafia when she was 17, and at that age you are very impressionable. And I talked about victims who give consent to the abusers, technically give consent to the abusers, and then go on to participate in the said abuse, to like abuse other victims, right? In my court case, you guys should watch it. It's fun. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that 2 things can be true at once. So yes, Tuba can be a victim considering her, when we look at her social the social circumstances that were surrounding her life, and the decisions then that she felt like she had to make. But you also have to look at what she did, because I feel like Shafia was never home, hardly ever at home, except when he was coming to like abuse everybody in the house, but he was never home. And I feel like if she was really a decent person, a part of that is supposed to show when she does not have to like perform in front of her abuser. No? I don't know. Let me know if I'm overthinking or overanalyzing this. Let me know, because right now my mouth is dry. I am tired. I've been talking so much for so long. So you guys let me know what you think. This case is so heartbreaking and I don't know how to end it. I have made like 20 different clips trying to end this case. Oh my God. it's so heartbreaking, so confusing. Like, why did it have to happen? And then when you think about Rona, it's just like Rona was an afterthought in all of this. Like, it's just like we want to get rid of our children, and let's just throw in this inconvenience that so that we don't have to deal with it anymore. And the children, the ones that died and the ones that are alive, they probably know that their parents and their brother killed their other siblings. Like, they have to, right? Right? How do you come back from such trauma? How do you deal with such trauma? That brings us to the end of today's case. You all take care of yourselves. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done that already, and I'll see you for the next one.